There is a cost to not spending money.
There was technology there available, but we had decided to not pay for that yet. Digging through filing cabinets and photocopying, data and session notes and compiling everything. We had a very important BCBAs doing like clerical kind of menial work.
Yes. I know that a lot of yours in this very predicament, right? Why can't people just do what I tell them to do?
Welcome to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3Pi Squared. I'm April.
And I'm Steven.
And today we're going to talk about
the cost of saving money.
The cost of saving money. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You guys ready? You ready to go? This is a big one. Steven has been kind of contemplating and thinking
tinkering
because this is something that you pride yourself in. You call yourself cheap, but
frugal.
We try to dress it up and make it sound a little better, right? You're frugal, you're safe with your money, you're cautious with your money, you work hard for your money, and you don't want to spend more than you have to spend,
right?
And you want to try to do things as with spending as minimal amount as possible, so that you do have that money to do other things too,
as cheaply as possible.
So
yes.
Some of you guys may relate to that mindset of money, and even if in your everyday life you never related to that, now you found yourself in the position where you're starting a company or you're growing a company, and you're like, wow, yeah, you're right. Yep, that's my mindset now too.
Right.
So
I mean, if we want to go into a therapy session, I assume this comes from childhood, right? I'm not going to get into much of it, but we were dirt poor, right? So we were welfare, living in welfare housing. My mom didn't work. My dad was sick. So I assume that it comes from that scarcity, right? Mm. And so now I built up this little, this pile of twigs, and I don't want to give them away.
Yeah, the acorns. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your squirrel.
Yep. I got to squirrel it away. I can't lose any of them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
to my detriment,
but
right?
You also need more, because no matter how big your acorn pile is, you still need more acorns.
Yeah. So again, we could get into the weeds on my issues, but yeah. So that is something. But again, it's kind of like that. If I don't do it, no one will do it, right? Or it won't be done as well as if I do it. There is some underlying truth to that. And you can use that to say, then I have to do everything myself, right? That's not healthy, right? Same with this, right? I have to spend my money wisely and efficiently so that my company can stay financially viable. That there is truth to that, but it can also be to your detriment, right? Therefore, I always have to, find the cheapest product or do it myself or, find a workaround.
Right. Because a lot of times, let's be real, right? Sometimes, especially in those starting up phases, we really do have to do the best we can with making the penny go as far as it possibly can. And a lot of times that means we're doing it.
Yes.
Just because we a lot of times we're not coming into this with the funds to delegate off the bat. Now, I do believe that this is part of the business planning. You do need to have a plan for how you are going to earn these monies, to pay for these things. Yep. As I say often, things like training that aren't billable.
Yep.
There's a whole slew of things with an ABA company that aren't billable. And I think we all know at this point that the billables are that money's not just free flowing in, even after you've done the work, right? So there is the point of sometimes you do have to start out with doing the best that you can with what you've got. But I think it's important to be intentional to not stay stuck in that place, right? Because sometimes you might save $5 a month, but to what expense, right? Like how many hours of your time you're like, oh, well, this thing is almost perfect. This service or this product or whatever is almost what I need, or this one's really great, but if I got this one that's almost great, that's like $5 less a month. And then there's these missing pieces that I'll just do myself. Really, seriously, how many hours is it going to take of your time to do those things, right?
And maybe it's not $5, maybe it's $500, but there's like, sure. Like, but you know, like there is that, like, when the cost benefit analysis, right? So like when does something, when does it make it worth it? I think that for a lot of business owners, they don't take into consideration their own time and sanity and stress level into the equation when they're looking at the cost benefit analysis. And again, like an example of this was, like, again, super cheap Steven. Like when we were first started, like I was looking for free services because, you know, free is great. It's better. That was how I looked at this. And so we had, you know, very cheap email, HIPAA compliant email. We had a different system for messaging, free. OMD is fine. Then we had a different system for our backup storage, you know, and we were doing, you know, session notes in paper or Excel, right? And so like all of these systems were, calendar was something else because it was free, right? So everything was its own little system. I piecemealed it together to kind of make it work, but it never really worked. And the amount of time that like our admin team, myself, you, our staff spent making this work was way more expensive than not, right? And like we probably had 7-8 different systems at some point, and like I like the thing for me is somebody quit. That was like the final straw. And then I couldn't remember where do I, like, how do I get to remove the access, right? Like which apps, I can't even remember which apps to remove and it was just is too much. So then we finally made a switch to Microsoft, and like it was just so easy, right? And all of that headache and admin burden was just gone. It was just poof. And so, yeah, like I managed to put this thing together for maybe $7, $8 a user, right? Versus Microsoft, where I don't know, it's 20, 25, somewhere around there. So yeah, I saved like, I don't know, $20, 20-ish, $18 per person, right? But like, a month, you times that by 50, right? So, you know, and then, but how many hours of lost time just, and even if let's say we managed to get a couple more billables, great. But just the amount of time that it took to, and frustration, that we lost for this to save a few dollars. It just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it. Mm-hmm. So like that is a great example, in my opinion, a great example of how I would do things, you know. And then even with 3 Pi Squared, right, with this podcast, I tried to do it for free for years, and it was like, I don't know how many podcasts that we try to record that like poofed and vanished. they were just, they didn't record because the software broke, like it just quit in the middle of it, and we couldn't save the recording, right? And then we went to Riverside, and like it's just been so smooth and easy, right? And so those are my examples.
Yeah, and I think it's important here too, not to get caught up into like the actual systems, like Microsoft or Google, or
right.
It doesn't matter here. It's like finding the part that works for you, that has all of the pieces that, yes, you are going to have to invest a little bit more money into it. But yeah,
Yeah. So, and you know, some simple systems may work for you, and that's fine. But like it's, you know, very similar to a practice management software, right? Like if we can find something that does everything that we need it to do, and it's a little bit more expensive, it's probably going to save you in the end, right? Especially if you're going, you know, if it's Excel right now, like that is not, like, you are not saving money. You are just going to have a higher recoupment. That's all this is. So like with a practice management software, you're going to have all of your session notes. They're not going to be able to submit a claim without a session note being completed, right? For most practice I hope the practice manager doesn't allow for that, right? So all of those basic things need to be in there. Many of them now have AI session note reviewers so that they can make sure that the session narrative meets the requirements of funders. And, you know, having those things in place are going to prevent these recoupment audits. And, you know, we've had customers that $500,000 recoupment audit, right? And not to say that it's going to prevent the accusation, but you'll have the evidence where you can defend yourself and, you know, provide the information that is needed to fight this, so you don't have to pay that. Right.
And not only that though, like I'm looking back, I mean, I'm remembering way back, right? From the beginning when we did do paper pen data and timesheets, and I'm looking way back to some of our very first recoupment audits, and we still were able to find the evidence to back up that we did provide the services that we said we did, and use that opportunity to realize how we need to make our systems better and our notes better. However, not hours, not days, the weeks of multiple employees. Like we had BCBAs that were with like multiple BCBAs for days, over weeks of time, that we were going through the paper filing cabinets. And maybe this part of this is just the fact that if that's just the time frame it was. Like this was like right at the cusp of everything going more technology and things. However, there was technology there available, but we had decided to not pay for that yet, right? Or try to make our own systems, like you said. But that we're digging through filing cabinets and photocopying, you know, data and session notes and compiling everything. Now I'm sure that if you know, a company today that gets a recoupment audit who has a practice management software, there's still some time involved.
Of course. And
you have to go through and you check, and it's an annoyance, but probably hours with less staff across the board. So we lost so many billables. We didn't pay out in the recoupment because we were able to provide what we needed.
Justify them, yeah.
But so much time, so much billables. We had very important BCBAs doing like very like clerical kind of menial work because they were the ones who like they knew their stuff, right? So anyways, so even that, just looking at like the stress and the manpower, that, and we were learning then that we didn't have systems in place to be able to know how to, you know, access things as quickly as we needed to. And so all of that, right? But it does take, it costs money.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like now, you know, more people have practice management than not, I assume. So like, oh, I have practice management. So like, I have Google or I have Microsoft. So what are you even talking about at this point? So those are like the bare minimums, right? Now we still need the foundation of the company. And I think that this is where many people kind of just skip to the end, right? So they're like, okay, fine, I'm going to start seeing clients. I'm going to start hiring staff. And so I'll go to ADP and I'll get a simple employee handbook for like some office, you know, or a secretary, and not to knock ADP. They have great things and great things that you can do there. But like, this is a generic, you know, non-clinical employee handbook. I'm going to get that. And then maybe I'll throw a financial responsibility agreement together using ChatGPT and
even before AI, just like doing some Google searches and just grabbing some free printables or a couple dollars to print something off from that someone else has made. And then now with AI, well, why I'll just run it out. Why do I need it?
And so this is a huge cost. There is so much risk involved in ABA, right? Like I think we can all agree that there's a lot of companies out there that we would not want our own children getting services from, and there is a lot of unethical behavior going on. And so as we're seeing across states now, Medicaid, state Medicaid, they're saying, oh, look at all the big bad ABA companies. I mean, there is some truth to it. Again, as I've said on numerous, like there are other things to be attacking than services for children, right? But hey, the government has decided that this is worth looking at, and that's fine. But like there are huge issues here, and so you need to have these systems in place so that you can scale it, you can follow regulations, you can follow privacy laws, and then again, we're going back to if we just have our employee handbook and we just have our client handbook, and then things happen, right? Like some crazy thing happens, and now we're building these policies on the fly, right? We're winging it, or we say, oh, actually, we're going to handle it this way, and then another BCBA that works for your company handles it differently, or and so nothing is being done like with any standard.
Yeah, and I think it's important to look at the systems across your company, because anytime that you have these standalone, and that's what happens, right? When you're piecemealing this, when you're just doing one thing at a time, just because it comes up and you have to deal with that, then you have these kind of standalone, but they're not really standalone, like these one-off, like these disjointed.
Yes,
I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Pieces that don't really fit together and may even start to cancel each other out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Or it goes like John handles this, not a specific role. It's just John does that. Well, okay. What about this other thing that's very similar? Well, Debbie takes care of that. Right. And now maybe Debbie thinks this is her part, and John's I don't know. I do that. And then we're either doubling the work, or there's no communication because it's just obvious that this is how it gets done. Right. And so we're all kind of paddling in different directions. Does that make sense? That's what happens. I hear it all the time is like, why doesn't my staff just do what I tell them to do? Right. Well, maybe because there isn't that, there isn't any clarity in the systems that you have and the expectation, while you maybe assume or think it's in place. If you hear that more than once a week, right, like something is wrong, right? There is something wrong in your systems. And we had Becca Marie on talking about very similar things, right? Where, the systems are kind of not being built correctly, I guess. And maybe I don't want to put words in her mouth, but like that's, something that we have to look at. It's not like a human issue for a lot of these things. It's a system issue.
Yeah, well, and also Brian Silbel, he's coming on again, talking about the systems and how can we control for quality and plan for, do all the things quality within the systems. And I think it is super important, because as we're in a growing, changing field, and myself right now am feeling the burnout. I really am. I reached out to Mallory and Jen, who are on our team, and they're like, hey, how's it going? Because I guess they said something, because I've just had a low energy week, right? And I said, I am burnt out from all things ABA. And they both laughed. And they're like, girl, you eat, sleep, breathe, drink ABA. Yes, I'm sure, right? And a shout out to them. They sent me a Tim Hortons coffee cart.
Tim Horton, nice job. Yeah.
Like, look at you guys go. But I say that to say, but this is like this burnout. I think I'm feeling a lot of energy from the field right now. There's this, it's a growing, changing, landscape. And it's just at this point, it's like, oh, it's feeling heavy.
Right.
And I think there's been a lot of conversations where it's like, oh, this is feeling really heavy. But also, we're engaging in a lot of conversations like this one where we're all pulling together and working together and saying, okay, what is the shift here? How can I take myself, be responsible, and what's my role in this, and how can we work together in blah, 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 right? All the things, right? And I promise this makes sense to this podcast topic. I'll bring it back down. But I think if we do kind of take a step back and say, okay, looking at the systems, and maybe we can't make big change out in the ABA space, but we can make small change within our ABA space, within our community, within our little company, right? Or big whatever company. Yeah. And that makes little small steps, little small change can really add up, right? And so I think that part of this conversation about, money is hard, especially these days. Things are more expensive. It costs more money to live. It costs more money to places to live, to feed yourself, to feed your family. There's funding decreases. Right? There's all of these gaps, and you're really trying to provide for your team, right? And I get this. And so you're like, oh, we'll cut this, we'll cut that. Because you do have to make choices. But I guess it's like, what choices do you make? How do you decide that? And so trying to bring this all together here, I promise. I've got it like in my mind, this makes sense. So hopefully it's landing to someone out there who's listening. But if we are like looking at our systems and building our systems and making our system show up clear and kind, like Brene Brown said, if we're giving that feedback and that communication along the way, then that's a huge step, right? I don't know. And so, but to do that, so what I'm saying, I guess, is looking at, okay, well, putting money into developing our systems may be worth it in the long run, even more so than some staff incentives right now.
Yeah, right? I agree with that. Because
then they're going to have that structure and that understanding and that safety within their work environment. Because if you know what's expected of you and you can show up to work most days with knowing the expectation and knowing that you're going to receive that feedback and that communication and that you're going to be valued. And if you are making mistakes, someone's going to tell you. Right. Because I think that's a part of it too. It's like you just go along, like all the systems are broken and you're cutting costs here and there. And you're just going along and you're like thinking, okay, well, I guess I'm doing a good job. No one said otherwise. So I'm just going to keep going. Right. And then you get that feedback and you're like, oh, you're on an action plan or you're written up or whatever, however you say it within your company. Or you just sit down and you say, hey, I really need to talk to you about your performance, right? This is not okay for us. And then you're like, oh, well, I've been just going along thinking everything's great because no one's told me any different. So these are all the pieces that can be very important to systems. And then also, like that, building the foundation before you grow. And so maybe it's about making those choices of how you spend your money and what you spend your money on to build that firm foundation before. And that's funny. That's what our child's favorite song right now. He's playing on the piano, Firm Foundation. But before you start hiring more, bringing more people in to make the more money, like you have to get that firm foundation set first before you start bringing in more. Because part of that's like being able to train, like to provide training for your staff.
Yes.
If you have a whole lot more staff to bring in more billables, great. But if then you don't have the time or the money to train them, then things, yes, I'm going off the rails. I'll back up a little. I'm not like following our little format that we had here.
It doesn't matter.
And I know this isn't exactly where we intended to go with this conversation, but we hope to have many of these conversations because this is really showing up a lot, right?
I just think like there's a consistent theme here, right? And the theme is, well, I'm too small to have, XYZ. Maybe I'll get to that later, and the later never happens, or it's really hard to bring it in later. And so having these things in place so that you can scale this, and it kind of goes back to a previous podcast when we talked about selling, right? Like if you have any intention, even if it's just the tiniest little inkling that, maybe someday I'm going to actually sell this, you have to work yourself out of a job. And so you working 60 hours a week to save, $1,000 a month, it's not worth it, right? It isn't worth it in long term. It isn't worth it short term, really. Like, again, I get, maybe year one, we're working a lot because we're building this thing. But, once year one is over, we have to have systems in place. Like, okay, we have this amount of revenue, this is our profitability, this is our quality measure. Now we can scale, right? Now we can hire. Now we can.
But we say that a lot that, year one's like insane. And it is. But does it have to be to that level, right? Like if you did come into starting up a year or two later, like if you decide, okay, I want to start a company, and then you spend a year or two saving money or contacting, like getting financing and you come into this, like if you sit with your vision for a little bit longer, I don't know. I mean, if you sat with your vision for a little bit longer and kind of had more of an idea of what you wanted that first year to even look like.
Yeah.
Is there a way to tackle that in a less chaotic way, in a more structured way? And you may still be working long hours. I don't know. Is that a given?
I don't think so. Like this kind of like riding a bike, right? Like, so you're going to have to put a lot of effort in that first, period of time. And
does the effort have to look like chaos though?
No, I think you have to fall off the bike. I think you have to fall off the bike. I don't think that there's any choice. There are going to be some people that just get on a bike and they pedal and it's great, right? And some people can immediately switch from what are those?
Training
wheels to bike. In my opinion, training wheels are not helpful, right? But maybe they are. I don't know the science behind it, but like at some point you got to take the training wheels off and you're probably going to fall off the bike, right? You're not going to be balancing because you never had to learn how to balance before. And so, oopsie, right? And so I think part of it is the pain of making a mistake. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. And I think you can read all the books, you can plan all of these things out, and there are going to still be some of those hidden things that you're like, ooh, man, I didn't think about that.
Right. But I think that they're going to be potentially less and maybe a little less painful if you go into it with some planning and some understanding.
Yeah, and I think...
But maybe this is just me as a planner.
Yes,
talking.
And I'm a doer, right? And so like we have very opposite opinions on this, I think. And so there is a level of plan... Like, okay, should you quit your job tomorrow and say, I'm going to start an ABA practice? That wouldn't be a great idea. But should you spend 2 years planning this out? I don't think you need to spend 2 years planning this out either, right? Mm-hmm. There's kind of like a happy medium where, I've kind of, listened to 100 of our podcasts. You're probably in a good position, right? You probably know okay, wow, these are some crazy things that I didn't think about, right? And so so
you can plan. So you can at least like have some ideas.
Have some ideas.
What, or like we talk about like what to do if you don't have a policy in place, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Or like, what do you need in place before you see your first client or you hire your first staff, or, you know, like, so these things can be helpful. Like, we lived it for 12 years and we've talked to so many owners, right? That we've heard or lived it so many times. And so that goes back to this, right? There is a cost in not spending money. And that may be your sanity, right? And so like I've said this many times, but it's like building the airplane on the runway. It's not a good idea, right? So that's don't be like Steven and just do it. Why not? Right. But at the same time, you know, we have to test the plane eventually, right? We have to know if it's flight worthy. The only way we're going to know is if we take off, right? And see what happens. That's the only way.
Okay.
Right?
Or how about this? Because I know you're a fan of analogies.
Okay.
And I say that sarcastically. In our personal life, I'll be trying to explain something to him and I'm like using analogy and he's getting so lost and confused. He was like, what? And then I'm pretty sure I switched my analogy several times and then I make it even more confusing. He's like, can you just tell me? Can you just give me the information without like all of this? Mm-hmm. So, but it's kind of like going on a hike, right? Like you're like, all right, I'm going to go walk through the woods. There's no path. There's no guide. There's no map. And then like you're going to, I mean, I would assume, unless you're like a really good Eagle Scout or something, I would assume that there would be some level of pain and mistake in that, in that journey versus if you know, at least had a path to follow.
Of course.
And then of course, depending on like the terrain that, you know, like having that guide to show up there with you to like help you. Cause we have a trip coming up this summer and, you know, it's a new area. There's some potential more rugged hikes that we could take. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do we do a guided hike? Is this a thing? I mean, we have to be with people if we do that, but you know, or do we just maybe go in somewhere in between, right? Mm-hmm. And let's at least just go on a well-walked path that, you know, that there is a path there. Many people have walked this path. We know this path is safe, but still has some pretty views. Yep. And maybe another day we'll go adventuring through the open forest with no path. I don't know.
I mean, if you want to add to this analogy though, like there is also like the actual human that's going on this journey is their endurance, their resilience, their persistence, right? Like, so someone's going to make it with the guide, right? And some people aren't. They're just like, dude, this is not for me. I don't see the benefit of this. I don't see the value in this. I'm not doing this. Right. And so like there is that level too. Right. And so like, and if you just like, it's going to make it easier to have the guide, right? Mm. You could do it yourself, right? But you may trip and you may get, you know, bang your knee and there's nobody there to help you, right? And you're kind of all by yourself. Or you could have the guide walking you through the path and maybe it's a little bit more expensive, but we avoided those pitfalls, right? We didn't eat the poisonous berries because we didn't plan enough to bring a backpack with supplies. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So yeah, I think that.
Yes, you brought it back to the money because that's where I was hoping to land because it's like, okay, we can go on a walk through the path, but how long is this? Like, even like my planner brain is like, well, how long is this path? Like, are we going to walk the path the whole way through? Or are we going to pick a point to turn around and backtrack back? Mm-hmm. Do we need water? Do we need snacks? I mean, if you have kids with you, you always need snacks. Mm-hmm. But do I need to wear? You know, do I need hiking boots or can I wear flip flops? Is that a gravel path? Is it like, you know, like this, my brain's like, So imagine my brain can definitely, and I'm sure there's many brains out there like mine, that then it gets to a point where I'm like,
it's paralysis.
I can't even make a choice. I can't make a decision. And and for our trip this summer, it's like this kayaking thing. We can go out kayaking near whales and dolphins and icebergs. I don't know. And so I'm like, okay, do we just want to rent a kayak and go out kayaking? No, No, I don't think so at this first stage, because I see a whale coming out of the water with his tail and flipping us all. But do I want to get a one-on-one like person to just take us on these very specific guided kayak of where we can go back and see these like hidden waterfalls? Well, that sounds really cool. But guess what? That's going to be like
very expensive,
expensive, and almost as much as like the travel getting to the location. Whereas, okay, guess what? There's also another option where there's like this guide, and it's like a group, and you stay in like this safe cove area. And I'm like, okay, that sounds better. But I needed that, like, my brain needed help moving from that. Okay. Paralysis. There's too many what ifs. There's too many things to plan for. There's too many things I don't know what I don't know. There's all of this. I can't just go down this path by myself because it's just too much. But then this other path on the other end is just way too expensive.
Yeah.
And so it's like, at least I can like, okay, how can I keep going like forward and actually make it on a path to go see these cool things? It's like, okay, where's that middle ground? What are you laughing at me?
I just, are we talking about ABA or are we talking about our trip? I don't know.
I think we can relate it.
Yes. No, I get it.
It's the same thing when we started our company.
Yes.
I'm like, I always wanted to open a clinic. I had what I thought that was going to look like was very different than what we actually did, but I was thinking more like a preschool kind of thing. But it's still whatever. It worked. But we're on our walk, and I'm like, I'm having a really hard time trying to find a place that I enjoy working at here. And you were like, let's start our own company. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then my brain goes into planning mode. I probably would have not opened our company for 2 or 3 years, maybe never.
Yeah, probably never. Yeah,
probably never.
Yeah.
And you were like, all right, tomorrow, why don't we see, we do know of some kids in this neighborhood. Why don't you ask them if they need help? And I was like, what? So yeah, I think there's some middle ground there.
Yeah, and I think that we can balance each other out, right? So not everybody has that. And so, that's why we created 3 Pi Squared, is to help you all, navigate this. But like the biggest thing, whether you go with us or not, just know that just because you decided to avoid spending money on systems, or I'll get that accountant later, or I'll worry about an attorney later, or I'll worry about HIPAA later, or you know what, I'm going to let everybody use their own devices, and we're going to use the parents' Wi-Fi, and we'll do that because we're small, right? We're not corporate. I often hear, well, we don't need continuous improvement policies, or we don't really need to follow OSHA because we're small. I don't want it to be corporate. I don't want it to be like stuffy business. I need it, to be like a family. And I understand and can appreciate all of those things, but without these systems in place, you are going to be suffering because of that. Underlying truth that I started with is that no one else can do this but you. Right. Yeah. And so you are determining the rules of the game, right? You are making the board and the pieces and how they can move. And so if you say, hey, Donnie is the only piece that can do this because we have nothing in place and it's all in his head, that is like a recipe for disaster. And so that's where it goes back to. If we don't build the foundation of this company with systems and processes and standard operating procedures that almost anybody could come in and do it. Because again, you need to work yourself out of a job, right? If you're wanting to sell this, if you're wanting to even just transition to where I'm only going to work 5-10 hours a week and I'm just going to monitor but I don't want to 50-hour a week work week anymore, right? I have aging parents. I have, children. I have a sick relative, or who, you never know.
Go find whales.
Yeah. For any reason, right? It doesn't have to be just, I'm retiring right? Like, but for whatever, you need this thing to work on your own and, without those systems. So if you've, hey, I saved $4,000 because I didn't implement this thing in place, that let's times that by 100, right? By the end of that company, maybe even 1,000, right? Of how much wasted money or risk that you have added to this practice.
We haven't even talked about turnover.
No, we haven't talked about it because the inconsistency of systems, if like, hey, Debbie does it this way, I'm gonna go talk to Debbie, because Mark, when he's like, awful. I hate having to tell this to Mark, and so everybody's doing it differently because nothing is in place. And then you go back to that piece of how do you hold anyone accountable, or have them hold them to an expectation when there is no expectation. And again, like that's just chaos.
And that's where it gets very personal.
Yes.
And it does become about the people, the individuals versus the system. And so like, it's so important for each person within the system to have a level of responsibility, have a level of, agency, have like to be able to show up as like a working adult with like value, bringing value to the team, to whatever level that they, but if it's all about each individual, then like it gets messy fast because we're human. Yes. And I don't know if you guys know, but there's some level of drama that's part of that. But if it's built in within the system in a way, in the right way for your company, there again, it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter system. Every system doesn't have to be exactly the same. There's all different kinds of models out there. Make your own, figure out your own. I mean, you don't have to do like the traditional 2-tier, model. A lot more companies now are doing, parent directed, parent led, parent supported, services, or, you may have a completely new novel idea that you want to bring to the field and try out within your business. And that's amazing, but it needs to be, you need to build a system to have those parts within the system. Yes. The system itself is critical. Because then that does allow you to be able to,
Yeah, I mean, here's an analogy that most people probably listening to this will be able, is a treatment plan, right? Like, if you did not have a treatment plan with goals and like, what is it, under targets, like, and you weren't collecting data, and you had 5 different, you had 5 different people going out to that house. What do you think would happen, right?
Right.
Like,
you didn't specify what the program looked like, what materials to use. You didn't do like any kind of like fidelity, any kind of IOA, and like checking to make sure we're all even checking for the same, on the same page, looking for the same things. And you just went to hang out to go play with the kid, and Johnny thinks, oh, I need to work on him asking for things, and the other kid's like, oh, the other text like, oh, I'm going to do play skills today. Yes. We're just kind of showed up. Whatever. And then Johnny's like, the BCBA comes in and says, hey, Johnny, you're not working on any of the play skills? Oh no, Susie's got that. Yeah. She does the play skills.
Yeah, she does. I don't do that. I don't know how to do that. Yeah. So like that's kind of the level, like you have to look at it like that as an organization, right? And again, well, had we provided, the materials that they could use, so, and okay, we provided the materials, but they're not using them consistently, right? So now we have to provide the training, right? So you have to...
Well, you have to evaluate like the skill levels too, and like meeting people where they're at as far as like what skill sets are there, what skill sets are missing.
If there's no expectation, in the
then
role,
you're not even gonna know.
You don't even know what skills are there or not there, right? And so that is and I know that a lot of viewers are, because I in this very predicament, right? A predicament of like, why can't people just do what I tell them to do, right? Because the system does not allow for that. They are putting out fires, they are dealing with the grind, and they have no visibility. And so what systems allow for is that visibility, that understanding, that expectation, so that they can say, hey, I see that you're expecting me to do this, but I can't because of A, B, C, right? And so without that, there's no, you're not getting out of this, right? You have to put these things in place. And some of the time, the system is not going to work as intended. Great. It's not working. Now we know, oh, we can't do it this way. We have to try something different, or we have to add training to make it successful. But until those things are in place, it's a risk to turnover. It's a risk to your just life in general outside of it. And it's a risk like recoupment audits, breaches, employment regulate. Like it's just, so I highly recommend that as you're building this company, that you are building that foundation. And I would ask of you to maybe just open the purse strings just the tiniest a little bit, and you will see the benefits of it, right? The sooner you do it, the more the investment will pay off.
Well, and I think those of you who are we're in a stage right now where you're growing, you may be feeling that, right? Of, wow, I'm really going to have to make some investments here. And it's potentially going to feel pretty scary.
Yeah.
Or, I don't have any data to back this up. I don't know that this is true, that if you earlier in the game you make a smaller investment, is it going to take you farther? Maybe. Sometimes it just feels like a bigger investment, like if you hop into it at the growth stage, but maybe still you would save money in the long run. I'm not sure that's I don't know where that lands, but I do feel like that it's those of you guys who are starting out, who are thinking about starting, who are in that first year or two. But then I also feel like it's very true once you get to a certain level of growth. But a lot of times it's because, oh, wow, we didn't have those systems and we didn't have that foundation. Correct. And now I can't micromanage this anymore.
Yes.
And things are falling apart.
Yes.
We don't have a system. We just have a bunch of people working together.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's like everybody's in the boat, and, some people are rowing, crazily, and other people are, and everybody's arguing over which way we're even supposed to be going. Right. And so like that's just not a good system to have. If you find yourself in that system, it's okay. Right. Many people have been there, including us.
You're not alone.
Yeah. Like,
you're not alone. And this is not meant to shame.
I think that is, I was talking to someone yesterday, and like we went through some of the, some major issues. Hey, you have acknowledged that these things exist. Great job, because many people don't, and they just like, they put their head in the sand and just say, like everything is great, everything's fine. That's not ideal. So if you have the awareness that you are in the system and you want to be out of it, it is doable to change. I know it is. We witness it every day. So, reach out. We'd love to have a conversation. But there is a cost to not spending money, or there is a cost to saving your money. It's very important that you have things in place that are necessary to scale this business, and you want to provide quality services. You have to be able to have systems in place so that you can manage your time efficiently. I don't know how else to say it. So,
well, to me, that sounds like a good stopping point.
Sounds good,
sir.
We have our book.
Yeah. So, ta-da!
And I think the journal that goes with the book is available on Amazon. You can get a paperback or a hard cover of it.
It's designed to kind of help you to work through the book.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. So like it make it easier. And so I would love it if you guys bought that. That'd be great. But you can also reach out. We have our free Discord group, for ABA business owners that are going through very similar things.
Yeah, so there's a link in the show notes, and you just click on that link and follow the directions, and then you'll get an invite to join Discord. And we meet monthly to talk, and then we have conversations going on the threads like throughout the month.
And it is business owners only, so there's no advertising. Right. There's no tech maybe in here or BCBA.
It's business owners and decision makers and leaders, right? But this particular group we keep it we monitor very closely. And we've been getting a lot of feedback that it's a great space where people feel safe to come together and share and support each other. We also have started a book club within that space too. So it's a really cool place. So check it out in the show notes. Go check out Stephen's book and the companion journal to that. And, and then we hope to see you back here next week.
Toodles.